Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, the podcast dedicated to the commercial food equipment repair industry. My name is Pat Finley. I'm a lead master certified technician at General Parts Group and a certified CFESA trainer. My goal is to shine a light on what I believe to be one of the most interesting and rewarding industries a field service technician can work in. I love the work I do, and I'm glad you're here listening to this podcast. In this episode, I have Josh Zolin. All right, so today I got a very special guest on. I've talked to Josh for a couple years, probably almost, and we finally got the chance to meet a couple times and hang out a little bit. So today we have Josh Zolin on. Josh has a pretty cool story. He's an owner of Windy City Equipment. He is the host of Blue is the New White podcast, author, father, husband. I mean, this guy does all kinds of stuff. I don't know how he finds time for everything.
Well, man, thanks for having me on the show, man. I've been itching for the invite, and I'm really happy to finally be here. I don't want to come off like a fanboy or anything, but I really appreciate what you're doing for the industry, man. And like, I know I got a podcast, but I'm casting a really wide net.
Mm-hmm.
I really love what you're doing with the niche of my background, right? Our background with the food service equipment, man. It's fantastic. I just appreciate you letting me rap with you a little bit today.
Hey, no problem at all, man. No problem at all. I love the things you do. You know, I look up to you. I look up to Rich and a lot of the other guys I've met just from social media and the things you guys are doing. And, you know, I was like, man, I got to be a part of something like this. And I'm glad that I finally, started this up a year ago. It's getting some momentum and starting to take off, but it's cool. It's been a blast. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, always.
So you're out in Arizona, correct?
That's right. Yeah, it's almost, I think it's going to hit 100 degrees today.
It's almost going to hit 80 today, so I'm pretty excited for that. It's been nice. Cold. It didn't snow a lot here, but it was just cold.
Where are you at, in Indiana?
Indianapolis. Well, just north of Indianapolis, yeah. So normally we have a pretty good amount of snow. It snowed like twice, and it melted, and it's just been brutally cold. So I'm ready for it. So I'm ready for the busy season kick back in too. So I love the OT. So I'll be into that. So you got a pretty cool story. You've done a lot of things in your life. So before you became a service tech, before you owned a company, what did you do for a living?
So are you asking me because you know this backstory?
I know a little bit. I haven't heard the full story. I know a little bit of what you've done. So,
all right. So I'll start at the beginning. I'll try to go as quick as possible, just kind of in a nutshell. So I come from a long line of stunt people, right? My grandfather, they actually just completed a documentary about him like last week, and it just premiered in Clearview, Florida, just last week. I'm itching to get my hands on the actual footage. But anyway, he was the one that kind of paved the way for stunt people in the industry. He was really good friends with Chuck Norris, doubled for Charles Bronson, Elvis Presley. I mean, really back in the day, like when cowboys turned to stuntmen, right? And so he passed that on to my mom and all of my uncles. I had 3 uncles, right? And all of them were in the stunt industry as well. And so my mom had moved from California to Kenosha, Wisconsin, because my dad went through the stunt school as well. So my dad was a stuntman also. He lived in Chicago, so they found a place just north of Chicago in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is where I grew up. And they started a stunt school where they were able to, teach people how to break into the industry. My grandfather had a school in California. They brought one to the Midwest, and that was my life growing up. I was the stunt guy, right? My first car, my license plate said J Stunts. And coincidentally, my first girlfriend drove it into a concrete retainment wall. That's another story for another day. But that's what I did. And honestly, that was the family business. That's what I thought I was going to do the rest of my life. So when I turned 18, I turned the wheel west and I headed out to California, broke into the business, and landed a decent amount of jobs, more than most people do, because I had the right connections, obviously. But it didn't take long, maybe a year or two, for me to realize that's not really what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I kind of had always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I was always the kid that would move rocks for the neighbors, and started my own company when I was like 14. Just doing weird shit. Sorry, can I
Oh, you can say whatever you want,
All
man.
right.
You know how us technicians are, dude.
All right.
If I'm not
Sorry.
around the customer, I got the worst mouth in the world. If I'm around the customer, though, I'm the sweetest guy in the world. So,
All right. Good. I probably should have asked that before the show, but
oh, you're good.
all
You're
right.
good.
So anyway, I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And before I moved out to California, when I was like 17, my dad had moved from Chicago to Arizona because once he got out of the film industry, once he stopped being a stuntman, he was a foreman for a bakery. So he would fix all the big bakery equipment, right? And that was kind of his background. So he moved out here to Arizona to start a business. And it was just him running at the time. He was just a one-man shop, trunk slammer, if you will. And so I called him up one day and I said, Dad, I'm done with the stunt business. And I have no idea what it is you do for a living, but I am assuming there's some kind of opportunity in it. And so the rest is history. I dropped the stunt biz. I moved out to Arizona and he taught me from day one, how to be a technician.
Sweet. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's a different angle than I had. That's for sure. So, Chicago to Hollywood stuntman to Arizona fixing equipment. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's different.
So is that how you got the Windy City Equipment name? Then is the Chicago reference, or
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yep, it's just a tribute to where my dad grew up.
so I always wondered because I followed you on YouTube for a while, and you used to have the videos and stuff out for the repairs and stuff. I used to follow you on there. Well, I still do on my personal, but I followed you on there, and I was like, oh, they're in Chicago. And then did I find out you're in Arizona? I was like, Wendy, this makes no sense. But now it makes complete sense. So
What
that's
the
cool.
hell?
That's cool.
We actually, funny story, we had to rebrand to WCE instead of Windy City Equipment because I kept getting calls from Chicago. People wanted me to come out and fix their equipment. I was like, dude, you don't want to pay that service fee.
I mean, I'll come out there, but you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere for the right fee.
That's right.
That's cool. So how long did you work with your dad?
So he's still part of the business today. And so I've been working with him now for, well, let's see, that was 2008, I think I came out here. So, we're going on 15 years now. The first 10 years, probably the first 7 years, I was just a full-fledged technician out in the field, fixing equipment. It wasn't until year 8, 9, and 10, I started to kind of get a bigger understanding of the back end operations, with the P&Ls and the dispatch and the quoting and the parts and all this. And so, through that, I was working closely with him, but as we started bringing more people on and into the business, I started to kind of separate from being a technician a little bit and working side by side with him to more office, style work, which, if I'm being honest, I miss being out there in the field sometimes, man.
Yeah, I know guys that they want to work with somebody for 5 or 6 years and get the knowledge base and get comfortable doing the industry and go out on their own. I always tell them, I said, that's fine. I said, you can fix anything in the world, but if you don't know how to run a business, you're going to be right back working for somebody in a year. So I always encourage people, if you want to start your own business, you're working for someone for a while, that's fine. But make sure you're taking business classes. Make sure you're trying to learn from people, that own business. It doesn't be our industry, but, it could be another service industry. Make sure you talk to them and just work your way through it. I mean, like I said, you can fix anything in the world and not run a business. So
that's absolutely right.
So yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So how big are you guys now? You're in a few different states, correct?
Yeah. So right now we have 4 branches in 3 states. We've got Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, and Houston, Texas. And it's been a bit of a ride, right? It's from me and my dad working out of his garage to, honestly, what really propelled us was when we decided to start an HVAC and refrigeration division. We had such a great customer base with the niche trade that we were in. And they were always asking us to open up a refrigeration, HVAC and refrigeration side. And we just, stay in your lane kind of thing. My dad actually went to refrigeration school at one point, but he'll be the first to tell you that he sucks at it. And so we just never did it. And then we found the right people, as the story so often goes, right? You bring on the right people, bring on the people smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
And we found them to open up, the HVAC and refrigeration side. And then that's when we really started to put the pedal to the metal. That's about the time that I became CEO as well. And then we really kind of opened up the throttle and just kind of went, right? We landed on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in America 3 times. which
Nice.
was wild. But yeah, man, everything kind of fell into place.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize you guys started off as a hot side only and then added in. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I started as hot side only first, and then I got bored and I got ADHD, so I gotta be all over the place. And I wanted to do refrigeration, and I ended up leaving to go do refrigeration. Um, and now I just kind of do everything. I do installs, I do hot side, cold side, dish machines. If it's in there, I'm going to work on it. I mean, that's just how I am. And
Yeah.
you can really see the value, especially if you can do everything well. It's hard to do everything well. That's what I've realized. There's other guys I work with where I know that they can do both, but they can't do both well. They're either good at one
Yeah.
or good at the other. But you find a guy that can do both well, and you better hold on to that guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this before, Pat. It's like, the mindset these days is, people they want to they've got their niche, they've got their skill, right? And it seems like some people just for whatever reason they don't want to branch out with that, right? And the mentality once was, hey, yeah, if I'm here in a kitchen, and this piece of equipment is broken, I'm going to fix it. Whether that's my background or not, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to try,
Oh yeah.
but
Dude, I'll fix water lines coming out of the wall. I'll fix drain lines on sinks. I mean, if it's in a kitchen, dude, I don't care. As long as it's
yeah,
not in the wall, because our insurance purposes, if it's outside the wall, we can do it.
yeah,
Dude, if it's there, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Yeah, yeah, I can do it. Let's go.
yeah,
Let's make
oh,
it happen.
absolutely.
Take care of that customer mentality is what it comes down to. I mean, a lot of guys just see it as a job, and they don't see the other side of it. You got to look further than it just being a job. Um, you're impacting people whether you know it or not. I mean, it's crazy to think. I had a guy on last week, and he asked me, what's your impact? And I didn't really know what to think, and I thought it was just the short term. He goes, no. He said, you got to think about it long term. You got to think that you're affecting not just the person working there, you're affecting their family. You're affecting everyone coming in to eat in that restaurant with their family. And it's just like the downstream effect of what we really do is kind of crazy to think about.
Here's another angle on that too. If you haven't heard this before, Pat, who else do you impact in that position? And this is interesting. Somebody asked me this question and I answered it, kind of the same way that you just described it. Like, I'm impacting the customer, I'm impacting the family, I'm impacting, their customers,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the person that you impact the most in the position that you're in is actually your direct supervisor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about culture, because we talk all the time about the culture
Mm-hmm.
in the industry, right? I think that's an important angle to see,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're talking about being a full-fledged technician, like
Mm-hmm.
what all you're affecting, like on a personal level, man, like it's important to understand that every time you do something wrong, every time you complain, every time you throw your arms up, every time you make a phone call, and you know what type of phone calls I'm talking about. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the respectful ones, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the one that you got on your vacation day. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about? Those ones. People don't realize how much you're affecting the other person that's trying to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just important.
Yeah, I get that too. I mean, I get guilty of, just sometimes I don't know when to say no. I take on things I really shouldn't take on, and then I let that affect my mood, and then it affects how I talk and handle other people. And
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I'm trying to do better. I mean, I go through spurts where I'm good, sometimes I'm bad. And it's just, you think about it, especially if you got a newer tech with you or a younger guy riding with you, you can't do those things. You gotta, be respectful because I mean, that guy's watching you, so he sees you get away with that. He doesn't know, what you've done or the things you do. He just sees you acting out or lashing out or being upset, and he thinks, oh, that's an acceptable thing to do. And that's not cool. I mean, I'm guilty of it. So I mean, I'm not beating nobody up. I mean, I'm not perfect. I strive to be better every day. But if I do mess up, I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna own it. I'm not gonna try to blame anybody else. Um, I'm my own person. No one forces me to do anything, and I'll take care of what I do, though.
Yeah, and that's good mindset. I mean, awareness is key, right? Just being aware of that simple fact is probably more than 90% of people,
Hmm.
can say that they do. Self-awareness is seems very rare these days, and I think that that is the fundamental. That's the baseline for making any and all change and actually seeing situations for what they are, and like to your point, personal development and peer development even more so, right?
Mm-hmm. Cool. So how many guys do you have working for you currently?
Oh gosh.
Technicians. Don't worry about office, just technicians.
So technicians, I think we've got 40.
Wow, dang. That's pretty impressive, man. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's definitely something,
Yeah, I always see you traveling a little bit. You go into Houston for a meeting or some of the other branches. That's cool. You always go in, and for the meetings with the techs and stuff. You're there to talk to them, and that's a huge impact, I think, on those guys because you're in where Phoenix, is that where you're at, or Tucson, or
Yep,
Phoenix?
Phoenix.
So you're taking your time to go to Houston to be in that meeting to show face, to talk to those guys. You know, I've worked for guys that I didn't even know what they looked like. I mean,
Yeah.
but for you to come in for those meetings and to be a face there and talk to them, explain to those guys, and talk to the managers, that's a huge impact on those guys. So that's a pretty cool thing you do there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And we can always do better, right?
Yeah.
And I could probably show face a little bit more. We do have, so this year is our 20th year in business, right? I came on 15 years ago. My dad had it 5 years before that. So we're 20 years in business now, and we've got parties at every single branch that we're going to.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I'm making sure that this weekend, this Saturday is Phoenix. It's going to be the biggest one. Then next weekend, where I'm in Tucson, spending time with those guys, and then second week in May, I go out to Houston. Those guys, the guys we have in Albuquerque, are coming to meet us in the Phoenix one. So, it's hard, but to your point, it's really important and really impactful. I think to let everybody know that, listen, I don't want to be one of those companies that it feels like they put a number on your forehead and call it a day. This is, I tell everybody, we're trying to do the hard thing, right? We're trying to scale with the processes and structure of a corporate company, but also the values and the characteristics of a family-owned business. There's a reason that those businesses don't grow and scale. There's a reason that they get to a point and either sell or just go completely corporate. Right? And I never want to be that company. I want to walk that line as long and as far as I possibly can.
So my background in the industry, I've always worked for big companies. I worked for GCS, which became Smart Care. That's where I started at. And then I went to a couple, they were bigger companies, they were bigger shops. They did HVAC, but they were trying to do kitchen stuff locally. So I've always worked for the big places, 100+ guys, you're just a number in the thing. So I don't have that experience, working for a family owned business. It's kind of cool. Guys always ask me, like, what would you rather do, family owned or a corporate? I was like, I can't really honestly say that because I've never been in that family owned situation. I said, but a lot of guys complain about the corporate side of it, and I was like, I can't complain about that because I'm pretty well taken care of where I'm at now. I said I wasn't always that way. I'd done a lot for General Parts where I am. I came in needing a job, and I came in and I had that mindset I was never going to refuse anything. So if they need someone to do a night job, it was always me. So I needed to cover on call, it was me. And then it became, I always wanted to learn. I wanted to learn new stuff. So anytime a new piece of equipment came out, hey, can I go to training on that? Can I go to rationale? Can I go to this? Can I go to that? It's just that thirst and hunger it's really paid off for me. But I mean, I guess I'm just lucky that, someone seen it, and I was always just the guy that made sure I was in front of everybody's face all the time now. So
yeah, and that's a really good point too that you bring up, because there's two sides to every coin.
Yep.
Right. And with the bigger companies like that, the corporate companies, sometimes the structure can get in the way of what you want to do. But at the end of the day, it's in place so that the entire company thrives.
Yep.
Right? And you've got that security that comes with it too. It's a big company, they're not going anywhere, family owned. It's like, sometimes depending on how big they are, it can be a question, and so it's a trade-off, right? And you've got to figure out what you value individually, and that's going to drive, where you best fit the culture.
Yep. I'm not against nothing, man. I mean, like I said, I don't have the experience of the small companies, and I don't knock it. I mean, just I've never been there, so I don't know what the benefits of it are. to each his own. I mean, I respect the small guys. I respect the big guys. There's a place in the market for everybody, I feel. And I think, there's more than enough work to go around for everybody. I mean, there for a while, we were understaffed. We were telling customers we were 3 weeks out, man.
Yeah.
Unless you were our top tier customer, you weren't getting service within a week. Our top 5 to 10%, we were doing same day, next day, just to make sure we kept that relationship, and everyone else was getting told, 3 weeks out, unless you approved overtime. Some people would approve overtime. Some people would decline. It was crazy there for a while.
Now we're starting to get all over the place, man. Same shit.
We're starting to get our numbers back up. We're starting to get some guys in. My son's been with us about 7 months. We've got he had no experience, came right out of high school, goofed off for a year, and then came to work for us. He's catching on pretty good. He's learning. He's real thirsty, real hungry for knowledge. So I think he's going to be a good fit. And then we've hired a guy that used to do it, worked for a school system, came back. So he's going to be all right. He's just got to polish some things. I mean, just get some bad habits. You know how it is. You get a guy with experience, and sometimes you got bad habits you got to deal with, and sometimes you don't have it. It's just luck of the draw. So it's just business. I mean, everyone's got a bad habit or something. So, but we're trying to get that number back up, and I'm looking forward to see what's going to be next for my market. I'm trying to do a job change. I don't really want to say job change. I want to take on some additional responsibilities outside of being in the field. So I'm trying to work that up and see what happens with that. But I don't see myself completely coming out of the field for a while. I mean, I just want to be more involved with some of the marketing stuff and some of the social media stuff, and then some of the training stuff I want to try to take over, like some tablet training and some other stuff. I think I could have a different view to bring to that instead of having someone that doesn't use a tablet every day teach it. I use our program every day, and I know all the secrets, the shortcuts. I've had guys call me. I've had other companies we've acquired that had questions before they started running it call me, and I'd walk them through stuff and show them how to do stuff. This is like, why don't I just do this? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'd free up the person that does it now to do some other things, and I could just do it. I don't know. It's just some of the things I want to try to do. I want to be more than just a tech. I've always been told that I could be more than just a tech. So now I'm just trying to figure that route out and figure out what avenue I'm going to go.
That's awesome, though. I mean, because that mindset, I got to say, it's rare. I mean, there's the people that don't really know what they want. There's the people that say they want all that, but then they don't put in the effort to actually do it. Right? We see that's the real epidemic these days, man. I see that all the time. But then there's people like you who put your money where your mouth is, right? And you're actually taking tangible steps to be able to contribute in that capacity. Man, that's incredibly valuable, both for yourself personally and for the organization that you're with. That's hats off to you, my friend.
Yeah, just like everyone's like, you want more stuff to do? I'm like, well, I was like, it's not going to be a whole lot. I think if I spend 8 hours or 10 hours a week on it, it'd be probably more than I expected to spend on it. So we'll see what happens.
And that's the deal, right? That's what kids out there need to understand today, is that the deal is you take on more and you push yourself, and then you create that opportunity, right? That opportunity won't be there first, and then you say, okay, now I'll do more. It's just not how it works, man.
Yeah, dude, we had a younger guy. He was in mid-20s, went to a local community college for HVAC. He came to work for us. He was catching on. He wasn't doing bad. I mean, just a young guy, And he worked here about 6 months, went on call. And the first week he had like 52 hours. I'm like, I do that sometimes by Thursday, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the second time we went on call, it was like 56 hours. And he came in Monday and turned it in his 2 weeks notice and quit. He's like, oh, I don't want to be on call. I'm like, you went to school for HVAC. You're going to be on call for anywhere you work, dude. I was like, I don't get it.
I'm not in school. Come on, man.
Yeah, when he's like, well, I'd be like 5 o'clock and I still have a call on my board, and I'd have to go do it. I'm like, no. I was like, you don't have to do that. I was like, unless you're on call and it's overtime call, it's a different story. I said, but she puts that on there. She hopes you run it because I run it just because that's how I am. But I said, you don't have to run that call. It's 5 o'clock. You're not on call, man. Yeah. He's like, well, no one explained it to me. I was like, well, did you ask? Well, no. I was like, there it is. They want you to explain everything to them, and they don't want to ask the questions. I'm like, man, I'm not going to get mad at you for asking me any question regarding anything. I was like, I'd rather you ask the question and get an answer you don't like, and then we can discuss it, or we can take it to someone else who can maybe help you with it, than just expect us to tell you and inform you. I mean, there's so much stuff that we do every day that I just know it, but I'm guilty about not probably explaining a lot of stuff through it. But I mean, just because there's a call on your board at 5 o'clock doesn't mean you got to run it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you know what? Honestly, people like that, if they have a problem with the sheer if they can't even ask the question because whatever, they're afraid of the confrontation or they're afraid of the answer or whatever, this ain't the industry for them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to ask the dumb questions, and
Yeah.
I put dumb in quotes, but you got to be able to ask those questions because otherwise, how are you going to learn? Like you can't just expect people to tell you everything you need to know. You got to ask, man. Take that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I was always the guy that's going to ask questions. Like I said, I may have thought they were dumb or whatever, but I was always going to ask them regardless. I mean, I'd rather feel dumb and get a dumb answer than to never ask a simple question and not have any answer at all and just struggle.
Yep,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, there, there's a place in this industry for guys that want to do more and excel and learn more. And then there's a place for the guys that just kind of skate by and settle. Um, Unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot more guys that just want to skate by and settle right now. And it's sad to see. I mean, you see a lot of guys that have potential and they're just happy with what they have. And I don't know. I guess I'm just wired differently where I get this never settled mentality or never happy mentality for what I have. I always want more. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
really a greed thing. It's like I don't want more possessions. I just want more responsibilities and more challenge in my life when it comes to work and stuff like that. So
Well, it's you and I are cut from the same cloth, Pat. It's what it is. It's a commitment to growth, right? It's an obsession with growing personally, and that's why you take on
mhm.
so much stuff that probably clouds you a little bit, and as it does me, right? Like I'll take on as much as I possibly can until I get to a point where I'm like, oops.
Yeah.
Oops, but it's in the spirit of wanting more, of wanting to
Mhm.
push myself to be better. And to your point, not everybody is built that way, and that's all
Mhm.
right. Listen, if some people are content with, what they have and where they are and what they know, then hey, all the power to them as
Mhm.
long as they can find a spot that fits,
Yeah.
right? Don't try to put a square peg in a round hole, or don't try if you know you're a square peg, don't try to force yourself into a round hole. Know what you are, have that self awareness, and then contribute in the capacity that you know that you can. But communicate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had someone told me like you have to stop expecting you out of everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's 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 the truth. It's pretty deep. I mean, it's 100%. What I just think, oh, I'd do that. Why don't you do that? And it's just like, well, not everybody's Pat, not everybody's Josh. So it's a weird dynamic, I guess. But I'll take it.
Yeah, man. I've had to use that with a couple of guys here too. Like, like, hey, they're not going to be you. They're never going to be you. Just be okay with that. Like,
Yep.
all
Yep.
right, I guess.
Yeah. What I'm bad about is like guys like that. I'll and I'm bad. Like I'll see a mistake they make, and then I'll look for that mistake every single time, and then I'm like, you're doing this," and I'm like, why am I doing this to them? Why am I doing this to myself? I got to quit doing stuff like that. And that's what I'm bad about.
Yep. I hear you, man. I'm right there with you.
So, all right, we've talked about your locations, your texts. So we were talking about overcommitting a couple minutes ago. Doing too
Yeah.
much. So, um, I last year I work a bunch of hours. I teach Fry Master and Garland for us. I teach refrigeration for CFESA. I I started a podcast and all the social media with it, which I never realized was going to be a full time job in itself. I thought I'll just start a podcast and I'll post about here or there. Holy cow, man! The associated social media with it, it's a full
Uh,
time job in itself.
yeah.
I'm like every day. I'm like if I don't have content out, I'm like look at my engagement. I'm like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, no, stop looking at it. So, and I was on some committees for CFESA. So I was on the training committee and I jumped on a subcommittee too. And it just, I went to CFESA and I was talking to Dan. And I was like, I just don't have time. I can't think. I can't breathe. I can't do anything, to myself without thinking about something else. And Dan's like, he's like, I don't know how you do this. He's like, you're going to have to stop something. And I was like, well, I don't want to stop anything. I feel like I can I'm bringing value to everything I'm in. And yeah. He's like, but once you're too stressed out or too worked out, your values diminish at that point. So I ended up walking away from the training stuff for CFESA for the committees. And I told him I'll probably be back, once I get everything figured out and squared away and get everything, rolling the way it should be and get smoothed out. So I do miss it. I think that CFESA would do well if they had technicians in all the committees, I think.
It's a good idea.
I'd like to see a technician involved in every aspect of it. All the committees, at least be in there to have a technician's point of view. It seems like there's like a lot of owners and managers in there, but the technicians, is the heart of the industry, and it's just like I like being in there because I had to say, and I could say, well, this is what I see from my side of it. And it was pretty cool. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I was going with it. It was a cool experience, and I can't wait to get back involved in some things with CFESA. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like we were on the topic of overcommitting, right? And so, you had stretched yourself. It sounds like pretty thin between all the stuff that you've done. I'm right there with you, man. I sit on 2 committees for CFESA and the board. I sit on 2 committees now for RIFMA, which I kind of taken a page out of your handbook. I had to step down from one committee because I just didn't have time, right? And I mean, I host 3 podcasts now between my own and CFESA's and Behind the Burner, with the Repairs guys.
Yeah, I'm trying to get in on that one.
That's a cool one, man. We're having a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah.
Plus on top of Windy City, plus I've got Blue is the New White. That's not just a book and a podcast; it's a brand.
Yeah.
And so that's a business in itself. And not a lot of people know this, but I also have a real estate holding company, that I own as well. So, I get it. And to your point, yes, at some point that was really good advice that Dan gave you. You've got to choose, right? Because instead of doing 4 things at 100% capacity, you're doing 12 things at 50%. And then what's your value really then?
Yeah, I was just starting to suffer everywhere. I was in a bad mood. I couldn't get enough sleep. I was always stressed out. It sucked. I just walk away from the training committee. I enjoyed that a lot, but I had to choose the things that I needed to get going, and like I said, this podcast, I wouldn't think it'd take the effort it does, but it does take a little effort. I'm getting it kind of honed in a little bit. The ones that take a little bit of time are like this one where I'm not live. So I'll go back and I'll edit it out and stuff and clean it up a little bit. But like the ones I'm doing live stream, unless something gets totally off the rails or someone says something completely inappropriate, I leave up.
Yeah.
And then I just steal the audio from that and put it up. So it's not too bad.
What do you got to clean up from something like this? If you don't mind me asking.
Nothing. I made this like at the beginning where it was a little slow. That'd be about it. I mean, when I do stuff like this, I give the person at the end, I'm like, hey, is there anything you want me to take out? Because sometimes I'm guilty of it.
Stop doing that, man.
Stop doing this. Let it roll.
I treat every single podcast. I've done 147 of my own podcast episodes now. I treat every single one of them like it's live. I've made a couple of edits in some of them when people reached out to me without my prompting them, saying, "Hey, I realized I said this. Can you just go back and take it out?" I'm like, "Yeah, fine. That's not a big deal." Okay. But man, the second you offer it, you make people think. You make people think like, all right, maybe I did say something that could be construed as, nah, man, you push that shit out.
Yeah, good. That's good advice, man. I appreciate that. I just I just give a few people. I give people the opportunity. Like for some, like it's just a manufacturer. I've had like Brendan on from Well Built, and I was like, hey, anything you want me to take out? He's like, no, just let it go. And okay, I just put it out. I mean, it is what it is. So, I'll add in like a little intro video. I've got feedback. People are like, oh, we don't like the intro videos. Just get straight to it. And like, I don't know what to do, man. You can't please everybody.
You'll never please everybody. Nope.
No. So that's cool. So you mentioned Behind the Burners. That's a new one.
Yeah. So that one I'm hosting with Ray Bartolomucci, the CEO of Repairs, which is cool. We're talking to people in the in our industry in particular, the food service repair industry, but trying to tie in the people in the technology space as well, because as this industry has been a little bit behind when it comes to technology via software and AI and all this kind of stuff. We're kind of in a position where we're playing catch up, and I feel like now we're kind of starting to catch up with the rest, right? We see some really intuitive stuff out there now between, XOI and Repairs and what's the other one? Quant, right? And Interplay and all of these cool companies that are doing awesome things with virtual reality and artificial intelligence and simulations. It's really neat. So with that podcast, we're trying to really get a full view of
Mhm.
how technology is impacting this sector, and then trying to give some tangible advice as to how people can implement that technology into their operation.
That's cool. It's cool. Yeah, the repair guys are great, man. Um, they're always a class act, man. And they're
Yeah,
fun to be around, full of energy, man. And I love those guys, man. They're good dudes.
yeah, it's
He
what the
mentioned to
field
me a
needs.
couple months. Yeah, he mentioned to me a couple months ago about you guys starting the behind the burners thing. I was like, hey, if you ever need somebody, let me know.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I like their aspect, dude. And I love their software, man. Because
yeah,
I sat down with them at CFESA, and they're like, hey, you want to play with this? I was like, you do know I work for, right? And what we do? They're like, yeah. I was like, no, I just want you to see it. And I was like, I played with it. I was like, this is actually pretty user friendly. It's pretty tech friendly. I was like, this thing's pretty cool, man. I was like, I like what you guys have done with it, and so
yeah. It's really good stuff. I'm super excited. I see the advancements. So I'm an advisor for them, and I'm also
mm-hmm,
an investor in the product, because I believe not some, I mean, in the product, absolutely, but in those guys that you mentioned,
mm-hmm.
I mean, the passion that they have for what they do is just, it's unmatched. And the advancements that they're making to that software every single day, I'm just biding my time until it's big enough that I can start using them.
Yeah. So their story is cool too, man. Like when he posts on a Saturday night, he's in the family restaurant working, and I'm like, this is it right here. He's got his thing during the week, and on the weekend, if he needs his dad needs help or they need help at the restaurant, he's there. He's there helping out, getting dirty. I'm like, this is cool,
Respect the hustle, man.
dude. Always respect the hustle. So blue is the new white. You've had several of my friends on there. I finally got the chance to come on there. It was really cool. I appreciate it, man. Um, I like what you're doing. I mean, you're just all the trades get a shot at it, and that's what I try to do. I mean, I try to focus on the kitchen side of it, but I'm gonna have plumbers on, I'm gonna have electricians on, I've had HVAC guys on. I mean, it's all part of the kitchen equipment, trade. It's we're really a jack of all. I mean, I do
Yeah.
plumbing, I do electrical, I do HVAC, I do refrigeration, I do dish machines. I mean, there's so much in the kitchen that I just want to try to get out there. But there's other trades that are still involved in it, and I just try to show everybody.
Yeah, no, and that's a great way to go about it, right? Just the fact that you're positioning yourself in this niche, and then you're
Hmm.
branching out from there, is hugely valuable, right? Because
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. To be a food service equipment technician, you've got to know a little bit of all these different trades. I mean, shit, I remember, even when I didn't do any HVAC or refrigeration, I was just hot side, but I still had to know how to solder lines, to
Hmm.
for steam tables and stuff like
Putting
that.
a booster heater in or something.
Put a
Yep.
booster, exactly. Put in a booster heater, wire in an exhaust fan. I mean, this is, yeah, you got to know everything. And so, and as well as I do, man, these industries, they're the heroes of society, right?
Oh yeah.
They're the ones who build civilization, and nobody freaking knows about what this all entails. And people like you, people like me, when I was in the field, people like my technicians, people, you don't, I mean, we don't get respect,
Mm-mm.
right? And
No.
I only get respect now because I wrote a freaking book. Okay. And it was, I used the service to do that too, by the way. But but it's just this perception, which, I mean, you've been on my show, you've heard, the other guests that I've had. That's
Hmm.
all what it's about, is how do we get people to understand the value, the pride, the fulfillment, the honor, the reverence in
Hmm.
these types of jobs, man.
I just think that the schools have done such a bad job telling everybody since like the '90s you have to go to college to be something, and that's never farther from the truth than right now. I mean, you're still going to need college. College is better for your engineers, your doctors, your lawyers. There's still always going to be need for colleges, but the need for guys like us right now is so damn high.
Oh yeah.
You can pretty much name your price right now. I mean, like what they're paying guys that have zero experience coming in this industry is like twice what I made 17 years ago when I came in and I had 7 years of electrical background behind me. And I'm like, you're paying this guy how much? I'm like, I
I
didn't
know.
make that when I started here 12 years ago. I was like, what the hell, guys?
It's amazing, isn't it? And people don't know. Like, I'm speaking at Field Service USA in a few
Yep,
weeks,
yep.
and my session is swinging the pendulum, right? And how to
Hmm.
revive this profession in the growing industry. And it's just, people don't realize that, number one, the technicians are leaving this industry at a rate of 5 to 1. So every time 5 people leave, one person comes in.
Yep.
They think that in the next 10 years, it's estimated that we'll have a third of the workforce that we have right now. So
That's
what
crazy.
the hell is this industry going to look like with a third of the workforce?
It's only getting more advanced. We've all seen the robots are coming. I mean, and that's just beginning. Just the fry robot's the beginning. It's going to come more. I mean, we've heard stories about Flippy. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there that's, it's going to be coming. And you're not going to get a robot guy to come into a kitchen to work on it.
Nope.
So now's the opportunity for me, for your guys to step up like, hey, I want to learn robotics. I want to learn this. I want to be able to fix this. So when this thing breaks, I'm already there. I can fix this, or I know what to do. And that's where guys are going to shine, man, is being able to fix the robots, being able to fix anything. I mean, I want, if I can walk into a restaurant and be there 10, 12 hours and fix 5, 6 things at one location, that's a great day, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that's a value asset to your customer too. They're not paying multiple trips. They're not paying multiple travel charges there. I mean, it's only gonna get even crazier. I mean, if I could get guys that want to learn and want to advance, and that's the key thing. I mean, I've said it several times. You got to want to do more, and you're going to be invaluable to this industry, any industry, really.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Sweet. So we touched that you are on a CFESA board. So how's that? We won't get too crazy because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want Heather calling me. So
that's all right. Don't worry. Believe me, she called me before she called you. She saw this episode and somebody said something she didn't like.
So Heather's my buddy, but she's looking out for CFESA. I get it, man.
Oh yeah, and that's her job, and she does a wonderful.
Oh yeah, she does. That she does, man.
And here's what I'll say is, I had no intention of running for the board. I really didn't. And truth be told, I haven't been as involved in CFESA over the last few years as I probably could have or should have, and it was only because I received an abundance of phone calls, telling me that, hey, listen, there's this board spot, that we really think that you should be on the board. And one person called me who sits on the board, and they said, listen, we really think that you should do this. And I told them, I said, listen, you understand, kind of where I stand. And they told me straight out, they said, that's exactly why we need you on the board.
Yep.
And that was a really powerful statement to me, because it showed me that, they're committed. CFESA is committed to making this industry better. Especially if they're pursuing somebody like me who's got a big freaking mouth, and I'm all over social media and, in this industry, and I don't know, that resonated. So I have to say, since running, which it went to an election, a vote, and I won somehow.
Hey, I was there. I seen it. I didn't have a vote, but I was there.
It was also amazing. I wasn't convinced I was actually going to win that. But since I've been sitting on the board, it has been a really great experience. I got to say, any reputation that CFESA had in the past, whether that was, just that they're not doing enough to support the industry, or that they're a good old boys club. And listen, I'm just being real, right?
Oh, I said the same thing. I'm not going to lie. I've called it a good old boys club, dude.
These are narratives. They've existed, right? And I'm telling you that something feels different now. And that's really exciting to be a part of.
I love seeing the younger guys, you, Nick. I love it. I love the energy you guys are bringing to it.
Yeah.
I see people's posts about board meetings and sitting in meetings on the phone and stuff. I'm like, I always put goals, and everyone's like, why? I'm like, because I want to be a technician on that board. I want to, there's owners, there's managers, there's, all kinds of people on that board. I said, I want to be a technician on that board with the background I have, and I want to be speaking up for all the technicians out here that are grinding away. And it's like, that's what I want to see. I like, I want that eventually. Now, unfortunately, who I work for, I think we're limited on board spots, so it's going to be a rough one for me to obtain. So,
but you know what? I mean, that you're absolutely right, though. I mean, just the fact that you have that thought process is incredibly valuable for the entire industry. And so it's been fantastic, and I'm really, listen. The one thing that I said, because I struggled with this decision, I told you, the only way that this would make sense for me, somebody like me, is if I feel like I can make a difference. I feel like I can sit on that board and my voice will be heard, then let's do it. Let's go.
Yep.
I'm all in, right? And anything I do, I'm all in.
Yep.
And I got to say, to this point, it's been exactly that. And it's exciting, man, because this industry deserves to be on a pedestal. You know how I feel.
Oh yeah, we got some stuff in the works. I'm not gonna talk about it now because I don't want no one to snipe our idea. But
Yeah, that's good.
There's some pretty cool stuff coming up in the future that I'm lucky to be a part of, and Josh is a part of, and CFESA is gonna be a part of it. So there's some pretty cool stuff coming up. So
hell yeah, man, let's go.
Yeah, but I'll be on that board one day. I don't know if I'll be 60 years old, but I'll be on that board one day.
You've got my vote, my friend.
Oh, that's funny. So I won't keep you much longer. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you telling the story about being a stuntman and working for your dad and growing what you guys are growing. Being a part of repairs. Those guys over there absolutely killing it. I love those guys, man. Just the enthusiasm they have, dude. If you're near them and they know you're a tech, you're trying out their software, man. They want your feedback and input. It's hilarious. And it's great, though. I mean, I was like, okay, what is this? And they really have a great product. So I can't wait to see what they do next.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It should be exciting. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to change the landscape for sure.
Sweet. So where can everybody find you? Social media, website, your book, podcast, you can throw it all out here. And of course, I'll link it all in the description once this does release.
I appreciate that. So, I mean, I'm all over social media, at Josh Zolin everywhere. Let's see, you could find me at, I think the Blues the New White website is down right now. I'm having some issues with the hosts. So don't go to that website. But actually, Pat, you were the first one that told me that there was some malware stuff that was happening with that site.
Oh yeah, the link to the sign up. I was like, this is kind of weird.
And then I got deeper into it, and then now the whole site is completely taken offline. Anyway, I won't get into that. But or you can find me at wcecommercial.com. And man, I mean, just Google me. I'm everywhere.
That's cool. Well, I won't take no more of your time. You know what? I will say one thing. I love the fact that when you record, you want to do it before you get off work. That way, when you go home, you're with your kids, your wife, your family. And I applaud you for that, man. I really do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. We talk about being busy and biting off more than we can chew. And there's one thing that I can't and won't waver on, and that's understanding what really makes me wealthy and what really makes me successful. And it is my family.
Sweet. Well, you guys heard it here. Look for Josh everywhere you can find him. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Pat.
If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.